On a lonely plain in southern England stands one of the most mysterious monuments ever created by human civilization, Stonehenge. Massive stones rise from the earth like silent guardians from another world. Some weigh more than 25 tons. Others traveled over 150 miles before reaching this sacred ground. Yet the biggest mystery remains unanswered. Why was Stonehenge built? For centuries, historians, archaeologists, scientists, and travelers have stood before these ancient stones searching for answers. Was it a temple for the gods, a burial ground for ancient kings, a giant astronomical calendar, or something humanity has completely forgotten? What makes Stonehenge even more unbelievable is its age. The monument dates back nearly 0 years to around 3000 BCE, a time when people had no metal tools, no engines, no cranes, and no written language in Britain. Ancient communities survived through farming and hunting, yet somehow they managed to create one of the greatest engineering achievements of the prehistoric world. Every year during the summer solstice, thousands gather at Stonehenge to watch the sunrise align perfectly with the heel stone and shine directly into the center of the monument. This precise alignment proves the builders understood the movement of the sun with astonishing accuracy. But Stonehenge did not appear overnight. Its construction happened in several stages over nearly 500 years. Entire generations dedicated their lives to building, shaping, transporting, and rearranging the stones. Some archaeologists believe the monument evolved as ancient religious beliefs changed over time. The story begins on the grassy fields of Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England, an area already considered sacred long before Stonehenge existed. Archaeological evidence shows humans used this land for ceremonies and burials thousands of years before the first stones were placed. Around 3100 BC, Neolithic builders created the earliest version of Stonehenge. At first, it was simply a massive circular ditch and earthwork enclosure. Using primitive antler picks and wooden tools, workers dug deep trenches into the hard chalk ground. Inside the circle, they created 56 mysterious pits, known today as the Aubrey Holes. Historians still debate their purpose. Some believe they held wooden posts. Others think they supported stones or marked lunar movements connected to astronomy. Then, centuries later, the monument changed forever. Around 2500 BC, giant sandstone blocks called sarsens were transported from Marlborough Downs, nearly 20 miles away. Even more incredible were the smaller bluestones brought from the Preseli Hills of Wales, over 150 miles from the site. How ancient people moved stones weighing several tons without wheels or machines remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Researchers believe hundreds of workers dragged the stones using ropes, wooden sledges, and logs. Some experiments suggest the stones may have been transported by rivers and rafts before being pulled across land. But one question still remains: why would prehistoric communities spend decades performing such impossible labor? Stonehenge was clearly more than just a structure. It was a symbol of power, spirituality, and knowledge. The monument's design reveals extraordinary engineering skill. The builders shaped the stones carefully so that horizontal lintels locked perfectly onto vertical supports, using joints similar to modern woodworking techniques. This level of precision proves Stonehenge's creators were far more advanced than people once believed. Even today, despite centuries of research, Stonehenge refuses to reveal all its secrets, and perhaps that mystery is exactly why the monument continues fascinating the world. Tonight, we journey back thousands of years into the shadows of prehistoric Britain to uncover the true story behind Stonehenge, the monument that still challenges human understanding. To truly understand Stonehenge, we must first travel back to prehistoric Britain long before the first stone was raised. Around 4000 BC, major changes transformed life across the British Isles. Farming communities began replacing older hunter-gatherer societies. People settled permanently on the land, growing crops and raising animals instead of constantly moving in search of food. This period became known as the Neolithic Age, the New Stone Age. With farming came stability. With stability came population growth. And with growing communities came religion, ritual, and social organization. Ancient people believed the natural world was deeply connected to spiritual forces. The sun, moon, rivers, forests, and changing seasons all held sacred meaning. Across Britain, communities built burial mounds, ceremonial circles, and wooden temples to honor the dead and worship supernatural powers. Salisbury Plain, where Stonehenge would later rise, was already considered an important spiritual landscape. Archaeologists discovered ancient burial sites, cremation remains, and ceremonial earthworks throughout the region dating back thousands of years before Stonehenge. This suggests the area had long been associated with death, ancestry, and religious gatherings. Life during the Neolithic Age was difficult. People lived in small villages made of wood and mud. They used stone axes, flint knives, and bone tools. Disease, famine, harsh winters, and tribal conflict threatened survival constantly. Yet despite these struggles, ancient communities invested enormous time and energy into ceremonial monuments. Why? Because religion was central to life. Many historians believe Neolithic people saw the world as a connection between the living and the dead. Monuments like Stonehenge may have served as gateways between these worlds. Recent discoveries near Stonehenge reveal massive ceremonial complexes once existed across Salisbury Plain. Archaeologists uncovered ancient avenues, wooden circles, and ritual pathways stretching for miles. One important site is Durrington Walls, located just 2 miles from Stonehenge. Dating to around 2500 BC, it was once a massive settlement filled with houses, feasting areas, and ceremonial structures. Researchers believe the people who built Stonehenge may have lived there temporarily during construction seasons. Animal bones discovered at the site show evidence of enormous feasts involving pigs and cattle brought from across Britain. This indicates Stonehenge was not simply a local project. It may have united distant tribes for religious ceremonies and cooperative labor. Some experts suggest Stonehenge symbolized unity among ancient communities. Others believe it represented power controlled by religious leaders or elite families. The landscape itself also played an important role. Stonehenge sits along ancient pathways connected to the river Avon. Ceremonial routes linked the monument with nearby burial grounds and ritual sites. This suggests people moved through the landscape during important religious events. The movement from river to monument may have symbolized a spiritual journey from life to death. By understanding the beliefs and challenges of Neolithic Britain, Stonehenge becomes more than a pile of stones. It becomes evidence of humanity's growing desire to understand existence, time, death, and the cosmos itself. And soon, ancient builders would begin creating a monument unlike anything the world had ever seen. Around 3100 BC, construction finally began on what would become one of humanity's greatest mysteries. But the first version of Stonehenge looked nothing like the monument we know today. There were no giant standing stones. Instead, Neolithic builders created a massive circular earthwork enclosure nearly 360 feet in diameter. Using primitive tools made from deer antlers and wood, workers dug a deep ditch into the chalky ground while piling the excavated earth into a surrounding bank. The labor alone would have been enormous. Without metal tools or machinery, every inch of soil had to be broken apart manually. Historians estimate thousands of hours of human effort went into this first phase. Inside the circular enclosure, builders created 56 evenly spaced pits, now known as the Aubrey holes, named after 17th century antiquarian John Aubrey, who first identified them. The purpose of these holes remains one of Stonehenge's earliest mysteries. Some archaeologists believe wooden posts once stood inside them, forming a giant timber circle before the arrival of stone structures. Others think the pits held bluestones temporarily during later construction phases. One theory suggests the Aubrey holes functioned as an astronomical calculator capable of tracking eclipses and lunar cycles. If true, this would demonstrate astonishing scientific knowledge for the time. Even more significant were the cremated human remains discovered within several holes. These discoveries reveal Stonehenge may have originally served as a massive burial ground. Radiocarbon dating shows some cremations occurred shortly after construction began, making Stonehenge one of the oldest known cremation cemeteries in Britain. This supports the idea that the monument held spiritual and ceremonial importance from the very beginning. The people buried here were likely important members of society, tribal leaders, priests, or respected ancestors. Death played a central role in Neolithic religion. Ancient communities believed ancestors continued influencing the living world after death. Ceremonial monuments allowed the living to honor, communicate with, and remember those who came before them. Stonehenge may have been viewed as sacred ground connecting the worlds of the living and the dead. Archaeologists also discovered animal bones and evidence of ritual feasting near the site. This suggests ceremonies, gatherings, and seasonal celebrations already took place here thousands of years ago. The monument's location was not random. Its alignment toward the midsummer sunrise hints that solar observations were important from the earliest phase. Ancient farmers depended on seasonal cycles for survival, making the movement of the sun spiritually and practically significant. The first builders of Stonehenge likely never imagined how enormous the monument would eventually become. For several centuries after this phase, construction slowed or paused entirely, yet the sacred importance of the site remained alive in cultural memory. Generations passed. Children grew into elders. Religious traditions evolved. And then, around 2500 BC, Stonehenge entered the phase that would transform it into one of the greatest architectural wonders of the ancient world. Around 2500 BC, Stonehenge entered a dramatic new phase that would forever change the monument and deepen its mystery. This was the moment when ancient builders began transporting the famous Bluestones to Stonehenge, a task so difficult that even modern experts remain amazed by how it was accomplished. The Bluestones are smaller than the giant sarsen stones, but they are still incredibly heavy. Most weigh between 2 and 4 tons. What makes them extraordinary is not only their size, but where they came from. Geological analysis revealed that the stones originated from the Preseli Hills in western Wales, nearly 150 miles away from Stonehenge. That discovery shocked archaeologists. How could prehistoric people, living without wheels, iron tools, horses, or machinery, transport multi-ton stones across mountains, forests, rivers, and rough terrain over such an enormous distance. It remains one of the greatest engineering mysteries of the ancient world. Researchers believe the journey probably began in the Preseli Hills around 2600 BCE. Ancient workers likely used stone hammers and wooden wedges to break the bluestones from rocky outcrops. Once separated, the stones had to be lowered carefully onto wooden sledges. From there, hundreds of workers may have dragged the stones using ropes made from animal hide and plant fibers. Experimental archaeologists attempting to recreate the process discovered that moving even one stone required enormous manpower and coordination. Some estimates suggest up to 200 people were needed to transport a single bluestone. The route itself was dangerous. Builders would have crossed rivers, muddy valleys, dense forests, and uneven hills. Some researchers think portions of the journey were completed using rafts and waterways. The stones may have traveled along rivers before reaching Salisbury Plain, but transportation was only part of the challenge. Once the stones arrived at Stonehenge, workers still had to raise them upright using primitive technology. Archaeologists believe builders dug deep pits, tilted the stones into position using ropes and wooden frames, and packed earth around the base for support. This process required planning, leadership, and engineering knowledge far beyond what historians once believed prehistoric societies possessed. The question remains, why were the bluestones so important? Some scientists believe ancient people considered the stones sacred because of their unusual blue-gray color and unique origins. Others suggest the stones were believed to possess healing powers. Medieval legends later claimed Stonehenge was connected to magic and supernatural forces. One famous story from the 12th century, written by Geoffrey of Monmouth, claimed the wizard Merlin magically transported the stones from Ireland using mystical powers. While clearly mythical, such legends reflect how mysterious the monument appeared even to people living thousands of years later. Modern archaeology offers another fascinating theory. Researchers discovered evidence that ancient communities living near the Preseli Hills may have migrated towards Stonehenge, bringing the stones with them as symbols of ancestral identity. In this interpretation, the monument represented unity between distant tribes and cultures across prehistoric Britain. At the same time, the bluestones may have served ceremonial or astronomical purposes. Their arrangement inside Stonehenge changed multiple times over the centuries, suggesting builders continued modifying the monument according to evolving religious beliefs. Some stones were rearranged repeatedly, proving Stonehenge was never truly finished. Instead, it remained an active ceremonial center for generations. The arrival of the bluestones marked a turning point in Stonehenge's history. What began as a sacred earthwork and burial ground was slowly transforming into a monument, unlike anything the world had ever seen. But the most astonishing construction phase was still yet to come. Soon, ancient builders would attempt something even more impossible, transporting and raising gigantic sarsen stones weighing over 25 tons each. Around 2500 BC, the builders of Stonehenge began the most ambitious phase in the monument's history, the transportation and construction of the giant sarsen stone circle. These were not ordinary rocks. The sarsens were enormous sandstone blocks, some standing over 30 feet tall and weighing between 20 and 25 tons. Unlike the smaller bluestones brought from Wales, the sarsens came from Marlborough Downs, located nearly 20 miles north of Stonehenge. Although the distance was shorter, the size and weight of these stones created an engineering challenge almost impossible for prehistoric people. Yet somehow they succeeded. Modern archaeologists still debate exactly how the builders achieved this incredible task without cranes, trucks, or metal machinery. What is certain, however, is that the project required extraordinary planning, leadership, and cooperation. The construction process likely began at the quarries in Marlborough Downs. Ancient workers used stone tools to shape and separate the massive sarsens from natural sandstone deposits. Wooden wedges may have been inserted into cracks and soaked with water, so the expanding wood could split the stone apart. Once prepared, the stones had to be moved across rough terrain toward Salisbury Plain. Researchers believe the builders placed the stones on giant wooden sledges and dragged them using thick ropes made from leather or twisted plant fibers. Wooden logs placed beneath the sledges may have acted like rollers to reduce friction. Experimental archaeologists attempting similar methods discovered that hundreds of people working together could slowly move massive stones over land. But transporting the stones was only half the challenge. Raising them upright required astonishing engineering skill. Builders first dug enormous pits with sloping sides. The base of each stone was carefully shaped before being dragged into position. Using ropes, wooden supports, and human strength, workers slowly tilted the stones upright into the pits. Once standing, the holes were packed tightly with rubble and earth to stabilize the structure. Then came the most extraordinary part of all. The builders lifted horizontal lintel stones onto the tops of the vertical pillars, creating the famous circular ring seen today. Even more impressive, the stones were carved using advanced joint systems similar to woodworking techniques. The tops of the vertical stones contained rounded knobs called mortise joints, while the lintels contained matching holes known as tenon joints. This allowed the stones to lock together securely. The curved lintels were also shaped precisely to fit the circular design of the monument. Such craftsmanship proves Stonehenge was not built randomly or carelessly. It was carefully engineered architecture. Historians now believe the builders possessed deep practical knowledge of geometry, balance, and structural stability. The monument's layout also reveals advanced astronomical understanding. The main axis of Stonehenge aligns perfectly with the sunrise during the summer solstice and the sunset during the winter solstice. This alignment was intentional. For ancient agricultural societies, tracking the movement of the sun was essential for determining seasons, planting crops, and organizing religious festivals. Some researchers believe Stonehenge functioned as a giant ceremonial calendar connected to the heavens. Others think it symbolized cosmic order, a sacred connection between earth and the sky. The monument may also have represented political power. Building Stonehenge required enormous labor, food supplies, organization, and social control. Only a highly coordinated society could complete such a massive project. Tribal leaders or religious elites may have used the monument to demonstrate authority and unite distant communities under shared beliefs. As the giant stones rose into place one by one, Stonehenge became far more than a construction project. It became a symbol of human ambition itself, a place where religion, astronomy, engineering, and power merged into one of the greatest monuments ever built by prehistoric civilization. And yet, despite all this effort, the true purpose of Stonehenge still remained hidden in mystery. As the massive stones of Stonehenge finally stood across Salisbury Plain around 2500 BCE, ancient people may have believed they had created something more than a monument. They may have created a connection to the heavens. For centuries, scholars have studied Stonehenge's strange alignment with the sun, moon, and stars. What they discovered transformed the monument from a simple prehistoric structure into one of the most important ancient astronomical sites ever found. The most famous alignment occurs during the summer solstice. Every year around June 21st, the rising sun appears directly above the heel stone positioned outside the main circle. As dawn breaks, sunlight travels perfectly through the center of Stonehenge, illuminating the heart of the monument. This alignment is so precise that it cannot be accidental. The builders intentionally designed Stonehenge to match the movement of the sun. During the winter solstice, the opposite event occurs. The setting sun aligns with the monument in reverse direction, marking the shortest day of the year. To modern people, this may seem symbolic or artistic, but for Neolithic farming societies, understanding the seasons was essential for survival. The sun controlled everything: planting crops, harvesting food, preparing for winter, and organizing religious ceremonies all depended on accurate seasonal knowledge. A mistake could lead to famine and death. Stonehenge may have served as a giant prehistoric calendar, helping ancient communities track time through the movement of celestial bodies. Some researchers believe priests or spiritual leaders used the monument to predict important seasonal events and organize rituals connected to agriculture and religion. But the astronomical mysteries go even deeper. In the 1960s, astronomer Gerald Hawkins used computer analysis to study Stonehenge's layout. He proposed that the monument could predict eclipses and lunar cycles using the Aubrey holes and specific stone alignments. According to his theory, Stonehenge was not only a ceremonial site, but also a sophisticated astronomical observatory. Although some historians debate Hawkins' conclusions, most agree that the builders clearly understood celestial patterns with surprising accuracy. The moon may also have played an important role. Recent studies suggest parts of Stonehenge align with rare lunar events known as major lunar standstills, which occur every 6 years when the moon reaches extreme positions in the sky. Tracking such events would require generations of careful observation. This proves the builders were not primitive or ignorant people. They were highly observant societies deeply connected to the natural world. For ancient cultures, astronomy and spirituality were inseparable. The heavens were seen as the realm of God's ancestors and supernatural powers. By aligning Stonehenge with celestial movements, the builders may have believed they were bringing cosmic order onto Earth. The monument itself may have symbolized harmony between humanity and the universe. Some experts even believe ceremonies performed at Stonehenge were designed around solar events. During solstices, large gatherings may have included feasts, rituals, music, dancing, and offerings to the gods or ancestors. Evidence from nearby settlements like Durrington Walls shows that huge numbers of people gathered seasonally near Stonehenge. Animal bones reveal massive feasting events involving pigs and cattle brought from distant regions across Britain. These gatherings may have united tribes during sacred moments connected to the sky. Stonehenge was not isolated. It existed within a larger ceremonial landscape filled with burial mounds, avenues, rivers, and ritual sites, all carefully positioned across Salisbury Plain. Together, these structures formed a sacred geography connected to astronomy, religion, and death. Even today, thousands travel from around the world to witness the solstice sunrise at Stonehenge. As sunlight slowly passes through the ancient stones, many feel the same sense of wonder experienced by people thousands of years ago. Because, despite all modern science and technology, Stonehenge still reminds humanity of something timeless: the desire to understand the universe and our place within it. The world, because history is never truly silent. Sometimes it still whispers through stone. What you think about Stonehenge, let us tell in the comment, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel.